What CNCF project has 23,000 GitHub stars and has been forked over 5,000 times? That's right, it's Harbor, a graduated project in the CNCF. So what is Harbor? It's an open source trusted cloud-native registry project that stores, signs, and scans content. How many contributors have they accumulated over the years? More than 300. And any notable end users? A cloud provider that you probably know, and other companies that are out there that are also getting value out of Harbor. The project has been written in Golang and JavaScript. And in this episode of The Landscape, Sylvain and I got a chance to speak to Vadim Bauer, who's the founder of a company called 8 Gears, and he is also a Harbor maintainer. Welcome to The Landscape, the podcast where we explore everything happening in the CNCF ecosystem and beyond. I'm Bart Farrell, and with my co-host Sylvain Kalash, we dive deep with project maintainers and industry experts, bringing you the insights that you need to navigate the cloud-native world. Now let's take a look at the episode. Vadim, welcome to The Landscape. For our listeners out there, can you just tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Vadim Bauer. I'm one of the maintainers of Harbor and happy to be here.
Can you tell us what problem does Harbor solve?
Yeah, so Harbor in its essence is a container registry, and as you know, a container registry allows you to store images, and you can pull images and push images to the registry, and this is the essence of Harbor. However, in the usability terms of the functionality, you not only want to have the possibility to push and pull images, but you want to maybe kind of protect your images, have access control to those images. You want to structure them, like if you're a growing organization, even if a team of 5-6 people, you already start kind of separate or segregate images into different buckets and different, not buckets, but projects, right? And you want to do this and, provide access to your customers, to your users, token management and all those things. And this is something where Harbor comes into play, like authentication, authorization, and basically moving away from, I would say, from image storage, right? So it's kind of not just an image storage solution, but is an image management solution. So
right.
You can manage the whole life cycle of your OCI artifacts. So we're not talking anymore about container images. We are talking more about OCI artifacts because images are still a major part, but we have a growing number of other types of artifacts, right? So maybe WASM, Helm charts are nowadays stored in OCI registries. And so we're talking more about OCI artifacts than images. And this is where Harbor basically has this functionality, like everything around container management. And this is what distinguishes a bit from, for example, Docker distribution, right? Docker distribution, I would consider Docker distribution being more of a framework than a running application because it lacks all this functionality that Harbor brings, right? Like, authentication, authorization. It's just a way how you can store and retrieve images. And this is where Harbor come as an addition to Docker distribution. I mean, Harbor is built on top of Docker distribution, so we're not reinventing the wheel here. So we're using Docker distribution underneath for this basics operations of stores, image retrieval and storage. So this is in essence what Harbor provides. There's of course a lot of more features that are. Some of them are more interesting for larger organizations. Some are more interesting for general use of this image management topic.
Good, thank you. You mentioned a number of different features. Like we won't have the time to go over all of them today, but is there one particular feature that you really like?
Well, there are quite a few. I think from the so one of the features that I like about Harbor is its roundness in the sense that it provides all the essential parts that you need if you want to do the whole management part of the images. And this is usable for, I would say, from my perspective and what I see is small organizations like teams of 10 developers, 2-3 projects are using Harbor and adopting Harbor because it's usable for them. And also large organizations with thousands of employees and thousands of developers, storing terabytes of data, they're also using Harbor and happy with them. So I think this is one of the functionalities that I like about Harbor, that is suitable for small and large teams. And from the feature-wise, I would say the capabilities of image replication is a powerful functionality, so that you can use this replication capabilities to bring all your artifacts in one place. So, for example, you're consuming artifacts from Docker Hub, from GitHub Registry, and you want to have all those images locally on your premises or on your environment, just in case, and making sure that you can scan them and for vulnerabilities and things like this. This is one of the I would say powerful features that Harbor provides, and you can use it two ways. So you can synchronize it to other registries, and you can also synchronize from other registries to yourself. And this is something that I see people use a lot in Harbor. Different on the perspective, so like larger organizations use it more extensively than smaller ones, but this is something that is quite popular use case for Harbor.
Makes a lot of sense. As you said, whether it's for security or maybe for performance, if you want to cache images or other artifacts locally. So, if you deploy or do testing, it's already on your machine. And obviously for backup, not that something that, it's exciting, but having the right disaster recovery plan in mind sounds like Harbor can be part of that. You seem to say that actually even small teams are using Harbor. So now, like, one thing that we always want to hear about are success stories. Do you have any success stories to share, whether it's from large organization or smaller one? Any specific use case that you've heard from a company that use Harbor and solved a specific pain point?
I know from cloud providers, from a few cloud providers who are adopting Harbor or adopted Harbor and are using Harbor to offer it one-to-one to their customers. So like OVH does it, so you can just go to OVH and there's order a registry and then you get one. And the other use case is where cloud providers are adopting Harbor in a sense that it's not really transparent for the users that there is Harbor underneath. I think Vultr is one of the organizations who are using it that way. So you have Harbor underneath, but you don't see it actually. So this is a few of those use cases that I would say are a success factor.
Great. Yeah. I mean, for those who don't know, because I think OVHCloud they're branding OVHCloud in the US. For the audience, many of you may not know, but that's one of the largest, if not the largest, European cloud provider. So that's very impressive to have OVH use Harbor as part of their offering.
Now, Vadim, is Harbor often integrated with other CNCF projects? And if so, which ones and why?
Well, integrated, of course, it's used in combination with Kubernetes, right? So, I mean, this is the main use case, I would say, using it with Kubernetes. I'm not sure if this is already a CNCF project. If yes or not, it's Trivy. I'm not sure if this is a CNCF project. So if it is, then Harbor is using Trivy underneath. So we can use image scanning, vulnerability scanning, and SBOM generation with Harbor. So you have an integration with that. So this is where we use Trivy as one of the options built in. And then, of course, as I briefly mentioned, we are also using Docker distribution, and Docker distribution is also a CNCF project. So we are kind of tightly integrated with those two projects.
Now, you've mentioned some, quite a few cases where it adds a lot of value, the kind of companies that are using it. What about situations in which it doesn't make sense to use Harbor?
It depends a bit on a lot of times it depends a bit of the organizational structure, right? So if you're looking about a larger organization, I think in a small organization, it's clear, like if you're, for example, using Docker Hub or GitLab Registry or, GitHub Registry, and if you're using one of those registries and the feature set is suitable for you, right? And because it's kind of nicely integrated and you're happy with that, there is definitely no need to switch to Harbor. if you don't miss anything there. And if you just want to use it for storing, for the larger organizations, I would see two use cases where it may be not fit, because sometimes, depending on the organization structure, you have teams that are really independent, right? So they don't share any code, they don't share any images, and they're kind of also independent in how they're structured and organized. So they also host their own registries probably, and some of those teams in the organization are using, ACR, ECR, or Docker Hub, and the other ones are using other products. So in those use cases, if you have this kind of a fragmented landscape of different units using different things, I would say that it might not make sense to use Harbor, and it makes really a lot of sense if you want to have all your artifacts in one place, because you want to do some analytics and logic on that, and you want to have things in one place, because this is like something that CISOs want to see, because they want to have control over the artifact that gets deployed. And for those organizations where it is important, or where I wouldn't say it's important for everyone, right? But it's just a bit of a the maturity level that organization have sometimes, right? So if you're adopting containers and there is kind of a bit of a wild west in the beginning, and then things get kind of structured and organized, and you implement processes and structures, and then you have a kind of pipelines and security pipelines and supply chain pipelines, and all these workflows are built up over the years, and then you end up with this some sort of a central place where you want to have your artifact in one place, right? And if you're not there yet, then probably Harbor is not yet the right thing for you.
And we're in the midst of this AI hype wave. Is there anything that's going on in Harbor related to AI that people should be aware of? Do you have anything planned for the future? Anything we should know about that?
Well, we're also confronted with this AI topics as well in our in our project, because people are using or abusing Harbor for their AI needs, and mostly organizations are using Harbor to store models in their registry, because OCI is becoming the de facto standard for artifacts, and you can use you can store models in Harbor, right? So you can build your own integrations and build your own tools with Auras, for example, which is also CNCF tool, where you can pack everything in an OCI artifact. And people do this. They use Harbor for storing models. They store training data, and all those things. And currently, this is, let's say, it's not. I wouldn't say not officially supported. I don't want to say that, but I say that it's not kind of a. There is no formal support for that, but we are looking into ways how we can support this this workflows and make it easier, right, for people to use Harbor for other types of artifacts.
That's very interesting. Looks like that could give like not a second life, but another life, to Harbor, and make the project like central in other capacity. You mentioned analytics. Can you tell us more about this? Is there like some built-in analytics features that companies can use when they are using Harbor?
Well, analytics in the sense that you could query the API and find out what the other artifacts that you have, right? And on the artifact, you can find out what vulnerabilities they have. So you have a kind of built-in scanner with Harbor, and you can plug in other scanners. You can, chain scanners, and you can export the vulnerability list, and then you can use this exported vulnerability list to further processing. And so this is the analytics capabilities that we provide, right? So like exporting CVEs, exporting SBOMs, and also exporting the artifact data. So you can maybe investigate how images are composed, right? On what base images and things like this. But this is something that we just provide the data and not the analytical part itself.
Very nice.
And, there are over 300 contributors. You've been a maintainer for quite some time. Is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to take advantage while we're speaking?
Well, I'm happy for the project itself, right? For the maintainers. I mean, we have over 300 contributors over the years. And of course, I'm want to shout out all the Harbor maintainers and contributors that contributed over to Harbor over the last years. I know it's always a difficult task to, the demand is always really, not demand, but the bar is always high, right? So there's always a lot of requests coming from the user base. And sometimes there are wild requests and crazy requests, and they're always under pressure a bit. And it's difficult, right? So to maintain these things. And I would shout out to all Harbor maintainers, but also to all maintainers of open source project, because we kind of share the same boat a bit if we're talking about maintaining open source.
Very good. And would you say that that's the hardest part, is staying on top of all those requests that are coming in, trying to prioritize them? Or is there anything else that people, maybe if they're interested in becoming a maintainer, you'd say, well, I really wish I knew this when I got started?
I think it's a bit of a maturity thing, right? So if you're starting as a maintainer, probably you are try to please all users equally, because you treat all requests serious. But if you have so many requests, you need to do a triage, right? You need to distinguish what requests are important, what are relevant, and what bugs are relevant. It's not about just feature requests, but it also becomes relevant to bugs, because you cannot fix all the bugs, right? So there are so many use and edge cases that you cannot probably fix them at all. And so you need to find a way where it's a bit difficult for a lot of engineers and people like us who are working structurally and really want to have everything in order to cope with that, right? To see okay, this is the bug. Yeah, that's it. So we have to live with that. But it's not an important bug, right? It's a bit difficult to express this to users because this is what they feel. But if you have the big picture here, and you need to deal with that, and you can say that's how it is, right? So you have to accept the fact that you cannot please everyone or every user.
So if some of our listeners wants to get involved in Harbor, are you looking for specific skills, or is there any specific area where you need help?
Well, we're definitely open for new contributors, right? So there's definitely a lot of work in the Harbor space, in a lot of areas, right? So we are talking about the documentation can be improved, right? So if you're not kind of a developer by heart, but are working in the open source space and the community, improving documentation is always welcomed. Then we made quite a lot of success, I would say, in this in the LFX program, which is the Linux Foundation program for our young engineers who would like to enter the open source space. And we are taking mentors or mentees every couple of months. We have a new mentees contributing to projects. They're mostly students. And we are taking them and supporting them and giving them tasks so they can contribute to open source and build projects. And we have quite successfully built already 2 projects that are mainly developed by this LFX mentees. And I think if you're a young student who would like to contribute to open source, this is definitely an interesting option to explore and approach. And there are a lot of other CNCF projects. It's not just us, and if the reader is interested or the listener is interested, it's called LFX Mentorship Program. So if you Google that, you will find a lot of information from past students, how to apply, how to do this.
No, it's a fantastic program. And yeah, shout out to all the folks that are involved there. Like you said, it's a great way for people to get plugged in with a framework to get guidance and also the pathway to contribution in ways that they can participate. It's a reminder that you don't need 15 years experience to get involved. There are lots of different ways to do it. It can be a documentation. It can be, bug fixes, lots of different opportunities that are available there for people that want to get involved. For those that don't know you as a person, when you're not maintaining Harbor, what kind of stuff do you like to do in your free time?
My problem a bit is that computer is also my hobby, right? And it's a bit of a tricky situation here because it's hard for me to distinguish between my work and my hobby. But from my hobby perspective, I like to spend a lot of time in nature. I'm a vivid snow fan. Like I go snowboarding and skiing in the winter, so I try to spend as much time as possible on the slopes or outside. And yeah, this is kind of my hobby a bit. Ski sport and snowboarding, and yeah.
That's good. It's also good to know that as a maintainer, you still do have free time. So folks understand that not all of your time has to be spent on Harbor. You have, other folks there that are able to help out. Vadim, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us today. I think it's quite clear the value that's being provided by Harbor, its adoption as a graduated project, with strong end users such as the ones that you mentioned. Look forward to crossing paths with you, whether it's online or in person at KubeCon or other cloud native events. And wish you nothing but the best of luck, as well as all the folks that are maintainers and contributors in Harbor.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care.